This will be the second Fantastic Four movie I review, and I consider it an irony that I like it more than the last one. Welcome to my channel, Casey, that's me, Carrie Chug, the Sledge Storyteller, here to talk about the wonderful world of storytelling and to open up discussion about how we can tell the best stories we can, talking about movies, everything good and bad from a storytelling standpoint. So there are so many layers to what went into making this movie. This is just a review, so I'll keep talk of the backstory to a minimum. Besides the best sources on this backstory, it's in ready reach on about every streaming platform, ad-based, by subscription, rent, or purchase. When it comes to this documentary, it's called Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's The Fantastic Four. And if you don't want to dedicate a whole hour and 45 minutes to get the whole story, I suggest Simon Whistler's video on the subject in his Today I Found Out channel. Links below in the description.
The very short story is that German producer Bernd Eichinger, a huge Fantastic Four fan, bought the film rights to The Fantastic Four from Marvel, which came with a deadline to meet in producing a movie before those rights would expire. Eichinger found himself nearing that deadline in late 1992, so he took advantage of the loosely worded verbiage in the contract where all he needed to do was make a movie, and nothing said that it actually had to be released. A loophole nobody else involved in this movie was aware of, ranging from fellow producer Roger Corman to the cast of the four, Alex Hyde-white, Michael Bailey Smith, Rebecca Staub, Jay Underwood, and Dr. Doom, Joseph Culp. All the filmmakers and actors were of course miffed over the whole deal when the cat was out of the bag, and with Marvel Comics' own subsequent buyout of all prints, the mysterious bootleg being the exception to keep the whole thing hush-hush, Bernd Eichinger and his production company, Constantine Films, thus got to retain the rights long enough to take part in the production of the not-so-good 2005 and 2007 Fantastic Four movies. Eichinger had passed away by the time The Worst of Them All, 2015 movie came out, so between those three and, yes, this one under review, we have yet to see a movie that does Marvel's first family justice. Thanks to YouTube, the movie has become readily available to anyone curious enough to give it a look.
And perhaps this review will give you an idea if you think it's worth taking an hour and a half out of your time to watch this movie, since it's, again, readily available on YouTube. And spoilers will be included in this video. Just know that ahead of time.
The movie starts with what's commonly referred to as the best part of the movie, the beginning credits, against a backdrop of borrowed outer space footage, along with a beautiful score, though not the score you'd readily associate with an action movie, but a beautiful score.
And that's another sad part of this movie's backstory. The composers, two brothers named David and Eric Wurst, they volunteered for that job of scoring the movie. They paid $6,000 of their own pocket to rent an orchestra and make it, and also not knowing of the planned fate of this movie.
But the first actual scene starts with a now late and all but absent from Hollywood at this point, George Gaines of Punky Brewster, Police Academy, and Tootsie fame, as the college professor teaching the class that includes Reed Richards, Ben Grimm, and Victor Von Doom. We get some quick exposition of intelligence from Reed, followed by a smug jab from Ben, and both Reed and Victor showing a special interest over the coming astronomical phenomenon that the professor announces, Colossus. So the two super smart students have set up a lab that will collect energy from Colossus for their research. Reed a bit reserved about their timing here, but Victor's zeal is at its peak to see that experiment through. We then learn that Reed and Ben live in the Storm family boarding house, where they are like big brothers to the landlady's kids Sue and Johnny. Of course, Sue looks upon Reed in a whole different way. The planned big experiment goes underway only to go awry. Ben comes to the rescue looking like he deserved an extra scene as that university's star linebacker, but the next scene takes us to the hospital where Reed gets told that Victor didn't survive by two men posing as doctors, and we know that from seeing them just a few minutes earlier as Reed and Victor pass them by on campus. Who plays checkers like this? Now, given the trauma in the experiment, and much like the comics, we can buy that Victor had to get Darth Vadered into his trademark Doctor Doom armor, but all this develops into his becoming ruler of faraway Latveria over the subsequent 10-year period. You can only try to look past that, just what told these guys or whoever sent them that he was the man to be ruler. You have no idea. But at that point in New York, things got their own development. In the bigger picture, we learn that Reed's ambitions to further study Colossus in its next wave have never waned, and he managed to develop a spacecraft that Ben will pilot to get to Colossus in order to get to outer space. They just need a complete crew. How to find one?
Hi, Mrs. Storm. Johnny and Susan go to outer space with us?
Well, I don't know, dear. You'll have to ask them.
And we see Mrs. Storm excited as can be over her kids, adult kids, having this grand opportunity here. But I can't pass up the next best part of that scene.
Look at you. The Fantastic Four.
But before that comes to pass, Ben meets Alicia Masters. Those who are very familiar with the comics knows that's the name of his blind girlfriend, and here it happens in the most awkward and unlikely fashion. But yet another wrinkle enters the story when the substitute villain for the well-known Mole Man, because it's believed that Marvel, with their dwindling faith in the project, had put restrictions on the use of the Fantastic Four property and the characters associated with them. Here we have the jeweler instead, and he grabs the big diamond intended to function in some important way in the big spacecraft and replaces it with a cheap replica. In time, Doctor Doom will also want it. The resulting chaos ruins the entire project. Back on Earth, everyone of the crew is first perplexed by the fact that they survived the ordeal, then realize they anxiously ponder over what has developed before Ben's tragic mutation is manifested. The rescue crew finds them, and they're in turn examined by a straight-out-of-the-50s doctor to put hijinks into continued power manifestations as he performs tests, and he turns out to be Dr. Doom's minion doctor.
With their realizing that they need to break out, we get another answer to a tight budget for a fight scene. They succeed in their escape, but not before encountering Dr. Doom, and in the same scene, Reed learns that Dr. Doom is his former lab partner, Victor. Okay, at this point we've gotten to know these four. Reed Richards is pretty much in line with what he's like in the comics, intelligent, kind of dull, and taking charge tendencies. Sue Storm is timid and shy, but you could see where she would over time develop into the mother figure she is in the comics. Ben Grimm here is fun-loving, loyal, and caring, whereas in the comics he's grumpy with a hair-trigger temper. Johnny Storm, here he's the hot-tempered one, and that often gets annoying as he frequently overreacts, even overacts. And in the comics, Johnny is a free-spirited thrill-seeker who loves high-performance vehicles, and while there are moments when the four aren't getting along, one conspicuously missing marquee relationship is the frequent jabs done between Ben and Johnny. Those two have very little interaction in this movie. When Dr. Doom follows the Marvel lore that he has bitter hatred for Reed Richards, that it has brewed over the mishap over the big Colossus experiment, not convincing at all. The endless drive for power out of megalomania that we see with Dr. Doom in the comics, conspicuously missing.
and there can be no ignoring the lack of post-production voice-over recordings, and we're stuck with understanding Doom just half the time. But anyway, after the regroup, Ben, despondent over what he has become, walks out on the team, brooding through the streets, and eventually meets with the jeweler's cult, only to find Alicia with them, taken against her will. Dr. Doom crashes the party, grabs Alicia. Ben has just a temporary revert back to flesh and blood, and Doom has his men open fire at him with stormtrooper accuracy. Ben rejoins the four. They board their out-of-nowhere aircraft to travel to Dr. Doom's castle. Dr. Doom has the diabolical scheme of shooting a high-powered laser that will destroy New York City, and since this is in the tiny European country of Latveria, this means that it has to somehow curve. But the diatribe that describes that power is outlined as the four are trapped and are in a power-sucking energy field. Somehow there's enough of a crack where the field meets the floor that Reed can slip his foot through and stretch his leg to kick the field generator up, misdirecting that field. The final big brawl ensues where we get the best action scene the whole movie has to offer. Not that they've been all that good. And the big laser has been deployed as it befalls Johnny to finally go full-blown Human Torch in 70s quality animation. Honestly, it was better than I expected after I kept hearing critics describe it as Atari 2600 grade CGI. Then it does get to be about that bad when... Reed and Doom have one final scrap with a heavy emotional exchange before... So, final victory. New York has been saved, Ben rescues Alicia, and we get a fitting prologue in the form of Reed and Sue's wedding, a gown for Sue, no tux for Reed, who gives us a hilarious goodbye.
So, final verdict. I'll go so far as to say that it's on the same level of quality as the Captain America TV pilot of 1979. So whatever your reaction to that, let that gauge your decision if it's worth watching. So that's my take on the 1994 Fantastic Four movie. Thank you again for watching. Agree, disagree, something I left out, please let me know in the comments section. If you like this video, please click like. If you like this channel, please click subscribe or follow me on Instagram. As always, link to order Sledge number 1 and 2 through Indie Planet is in the description below, or you can order it on Kindle. Sledge number 1 anyway, available in both digital and paper format. But let's all look for civility amid all the bad news out there, social, political, international. I don't know about you, but around my neck of the woods, I saw my first lowering of pandemic statistics. Here's hoping that it's going to keep going down. I got to prepare myself that it's not. But everyone be safe and God bless.